Well, you'll get all kinds of reactions when people figure out that it's flat, and they can't uh, counter it with anything. But I could be wrong.
Yeah, I just looked it up. It says 4.3 times the speed of light. But yeah, yeah. What's crazy, bro? If you think about it, man, like everybody goes through life like thinking they know what the Earth is without ever even paying attention to the Earth itself. Like literally, it's just looking at cartoons and like a globe model in a classroom and asking why they don't fall off of it, and then them saying gravity. But so like this entire idea of what the Earth is, all of these children have grown up thinking they know what the Earth is, and they never actually looked at the Earth itself. Like never. Like until you look into flat Earth, you never even thought about the fact you're supposedly falling backwards during a sunset, and the sun's not moving. The sun doesn't move during the day; it's just an illusion because you're falling away from it. Like, it's just kind of crazy to think about. Like, people never actually even looked at the Earth to understand what the Earth was. They literally just looked at cartoons.
And that's really strange too, because I think if someone would have approached me and said, you can go out in nature and look over water and test the globe Earth claim, I'm sure I would have took interest in that. But people aren't hearing that, except from us. Really.
It is like impressive though that they got everyone to think the Earth's a certain thing, and they never went outside and like connected the dots.
Think about that. Think about how wild. That's just wild.
Like I told my friend, like go outside and look at the sun, and remember how big it is. Then look at the moon, and think about how they look like they're the same size. Now think about what they say. It's that the moon is actually 400 times smaller than the sun. 400 times smaller, but they look like they're the same size. Just because it's coincidentally 400 times closer as well, yeah. Exactly. Like no one thinks about any of this.
It just got to the right size and the right position, just like that, out of happenstance. Interesting. Like things like that in nature happen all the time, right?
Yeah, it's just pretty wild, because what really made me a flat earther was just going and looking at the Earth. So, like I tried to wake my friend up to flat Earth for a couple years. He was like a strong atheist, so he just couldn't handle it. But I'm like, bro, just go pay attention to everything outside for one day. Just pay attention to everything and then think about it. Just think about what you think's going on. Either way. And now he's a flat earther.
Well, that's great. You're able to talk to one of your friends about it and he actually listened. That's kind of rare.
Yeah. But another big thing for him, though, was whenever I made him sit down with me and watch like an hour of NASA messing up in space. That tripped him out. He didn't really know what to do. He's like, why are they lying about space? Why are they like making movies, like Hollywood productions for space? It's weird.
Yeah. Really? Why would they need any of that technology at all? Like, what is that?
And in most cases, they're not even as good as Hollywood, too. Like, that's the crazy part.
That's true. They're not as good as Hollywood.
But it can't be good because it makes it look more authentic. Like,
yeah,
the poor quality makes it look more real.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what Owen Benjamin was talking about once, like that they lie to you, but they also tell you the truth. Like, they're like dropping signs everywhere that it's fake. So like, if you choose to believe it, that's your fault.
Yeah, like the 60 nautical miles per degree. That's based on the globe Earth presupposition. That's where the numbers come from. So
Yeah.
the clues were always there in front of us. But I think that was the key. The missing part was go outside and check it. Oh, you mean I can look over water? Like, it's so bizarre. If you take the other side of it and say that, like, wherever you are, you're on top of the Sajida with billions of people, what does that look like? How can every aircraft be on top of the Sajda in their own local area on top of the ball? What? That's a cluster. That's just wild.
Is there anyone in here that can toss me some rolls? I can't even post images.
I got you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, you got any word on the debate thing? I see he's posting a video of me everywhere somewhere. Did he agree he wants to debate?
Well, his words, he says it's not a debate, it's a trial. Ultimately, it's the same thing. So this cold? But I mean, he says sometime in July he'll be able to figure it out because he's busy. So I guess around like July 15th, you guys could decide on a date, or maybe somewhere in the middle of July was a possibility for a debate. Um, debate date.
Okay. Yeah, I see. Like this whole thing is that I use the word travel and FED, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's double speaking." I did use the word travel, fair enough, but I don't think light travels. I just like couldn't speak. So, I mean, in Mickelson Morley, the way they did the test was they assumed that light traveled, and using the construct of the speed of light, um, it's still relevant. Whether or not it physically travels from point to point, right? It has a rate in which we see illumination. So that's the point: is that the illumination rate is different. But whatever. That's what I'm saying. Like the best way is honestly just to have a debate. Like these like
That's
clips
what
out
I'm
of
saying because it's
context.
like whatever words, whatever it is like, if you get a chance to make your case, that's the fairest. That's the fairest thing anyone can do, other than just because it's easy to be in the heat of a debate and you know get flustered. I get flustered all the time and say shit that I'm not saying whatever it is. I know that I've been in debates where I've been flustered, and I'll go back and say, man, I should have said this or I would have said this, but I didn't really have time to. So I think, for
Yeah.
everyone else's benefit, because I think you two guys care the least about this thing, but for the community and the rest of our benefit, we'd like to see,
Well, it's
this
not
thing
really. There's nothing
finalized.
else though. And this little video he's posting everywhere. It's like I only listened to like 3 minutes of it. I'm like, oh, this is so gay. But anyway, it's saying like he's saying that in this numpty think what this numpty thinks is light. I didn't say light. I said electromagnetic waves. I didn't say light. I never said light. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's literally just a straw man. It's like, oh, he thinks electromagnetism is light. He's saying light travels. I didn't say that. I said electromagnetic waves. I didn't say light. And I specifically don't think that light travels. Actually, though, I misspoke in the sense that I don't even think that I don't think anything travels. But I was trying to set Oakley up. I guess I went in there naively thinking there was going to be like good faith interaction because I'm trying to guide him to the point, which is, um, it's like what does the wave travel through or whatever? Because what a good faith conversation evolves into is because in fact waves aren't things. So, nothing's truly traveling, even though that's how we characterize it and use the word propagation. Waving is a verb. Wave, I can wave my hand, but I can't hand you a wave. There's no such thing as a wave. You can't pull a wave out of the water. It's just the water moving. I can wave a towel, get the sand off of it, but I can't. It's still the towel moving, which means if there's like a waving motion, what is waving? Because waves aren't things, which means something is moving in a wave-like motion. That's where the conversation was supposed to go, but it turned into a complete shit show. And there's no real rebuttal for that. I mean, if you have to devolve into there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum, and where do we see vacuum chambers in nature? You just can't actually address the argument, right? Because the fact of the matter is that it's not gas particles. The waving attributed to light is not gas particles. So who cares if there's a perfect vacuum? And who cares if we see them in nature? It doesn't matter. Unless you want to claim that light is gas particles, that is a complete red herring. It doesn't matter at all. No such thing as waves. Like, wave's not a noun, it's a verb. As soon as someone can reach in the ocean and pull out a wave, let me know. Now this is why it hasn't been a debate yet, because I can obviously guide the conversation to logical necessity, or logical inevitability, more so, where it's like, okay, so if waving is a type of motion, it's not a thing. A wave's not a thing, obviously. So that means that there must be something waving. Okay, so if we see a waving phenomena, what is the something that's moving? And from all evidence that we have accessible ever, the only thing that can be waving is a medium. And towels are technically medium, sheets are medium, water's a medium. It's that medium, motion within that medium. So if we have waving, including in a vacuum chamber, what's moving? What is moving? Obviously, nothing is not moving. Obviously, there aren't just undefined waves there, because waves
I
aren't
thought you
things.
was gonna say energy. That's what's
Well,
moving.
you got to be careful with even
Quote
that
unquote.
word, because, like, what is energy? That's what this is. What I'm saying, bro. This conversation is deep, bro. Like, that's why I think it's like
So,
it
so a
shouldn't be like
wave is
it shouldn't be a.
sorry. So a wave is the medium in motion, right?
Waving is just a type of motion. Yeah, like,
Yeah. It's
can
the
anyone
medium.
provide any evidence of other claim than that? Like, waves aren't things. But, like, all I'm saying is the reason I look at this conversation like agree to disagree, because this should not be some, like, line in the sand, flat earth battle. This is a super profound conversation. This requires immense good faith to even have this conversation, because what is energy? And they define it as the ability to do work. That's retarded. That's not a definition. What is a human? The ability to breathe oxygen. You didn't tell me what something does. I asked you what it is. So modern academia can't define energy, can't define force, can't define field, can't define magnetism. So can't define light. So this conversation is like one of those things. We got to go back to basics and, like, actually cover, like, the basic understanding of each term. In order to ever have a conversation like that, it requires, like, immense good faith. Like, you can't do that with ballers, for example. Like, you can't have a conversation about this deep of a conversation with a baller, because they're just trying to win a conversation.
Yeah, I
Not to
see what
say
you're
that
saying.
they're ballers, but you know what I'm saying.
Cause it's like, the where we at? 104? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. Perhaps not. Could be. Could it be? I don't know.
Does everyone agree? Does everyone agree that wave is a type of motion, though?
Yeah,
right? Like,
because otherwise you would call a flag. You wouldn't call a flag a flag. Why would you have a different name? You would just call it a wave. The wave.
yeah,
Like a
the flag is moving. That's what a flag waving is. Like,
flag
there's
wave.
not one example in all of history of a wave. Like, what is a wave made of? It's whatever's moving.
I think it's implied insistence. You know, people are just like, we know we're not talking about, there is no such thing as a wave, but we all know what we're referring to. It's like almost like a common term, scientific slang version.
What are we referring to?
Common man. For the common
What
man,
are
it
we
would be
referring to?
the object in motion, which would be the water in motion of waving.
Okay, so now, if
You
when we look at light and it looks like it's waving, what's waving?
you understand? You have to
That's
convert
the,
this to
that's
the
the
common. You have to convert this to the common man's understanding.
The
well.
Yeah,
frequency is
I
outside.
I would just say, good luck getting QE to say that light is a wave.
There is no such thing as a wave.
I
That's
know.
my point.
We all
That's my-
know. That's the thing.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. He has to answer this question though. He's just going to say it's mathematical, and that's hilarious because that's what the photon is. The photon is purely mathematical nonsense. It's a particle that has no mass, it has no charge, and it has no magnetic properties. Yeah, no shit, it doesn't exist. It doesn't have anything. So, like,
I don't know about that. I don't know.
well, a massless particle with no charge or magnetic properties. The only thing in all of existence that doesn't have magnetic properties.
You hear me? Spend $11, no more for the cigarettes.
You're
Hey,
having.
but wait,
Sorry,
this is
hold
what's
on.
it doesn't have charge. It doesn't have electric or magnetic properties. But you can never find light without electromagnetic radiation completely surrounding the entire thing.
So when they say they're letting out a photon, they just have an instance of light propagation, right? Just a shorter instance, right? So it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't seem to necessarily imply any kind of particle.
Well, a
No,
photon
even that
is an event.
even that's
Right.
yeah, exactly. It's an event. That's correct. But even that's pseudoscientific math. Like, whenever they say they shoot a single photon, there's no such thing as shooting a single photon. That's the most pseudoscientific nonsense I've ever heard. You know what they do? They use a really dim light and they cut it on and off as fast as they can. They
That's
do a
it.
mathematical equation. They're like, the odds are that with the amount of photons we say come out of this magnitude of light and the duration that we had it on, there's a total of roughly this many photons. The slit's this big. So once we get within a certain probability that only one photon would get through it, mathematically, mind you, then they say that they shot out a single photon.
Right. So there's a lot of presuppositions in there too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
called pseudoscience. So I don't know. I think what's interesting about it, man, is like, this is why the vacuum chamber is helpful in this sense, because it's like, when you pull out everything you can, even though there may be some stuff still in there, we know that all the energy in that vacuum chamber is not from gas. That's the most insane claim ever, right? We know how much kinetic energy and energy comes from gas, so we know how much is in there. There's way more energy than can be coming from the gas. That's why the vacuum chamber is helpful in pursuit of actual truth, not in some like real pedantic, I want to win a debate way. Because there's no vacuum chambers in nature. Like, I don't give a. That's not even the point. Like, I'm saying, dude, it should be interesting to any intellectual that when you have a vacuum chamber, there's tons of energy coming from somewhere, and no one can figure it out. And all these quantum mechanics physicists, you know what they came up with? Virtual particles to try to explain it. Because the math doesn't work without virtual particles. But if we just ignore it, if we just ignore the energy in the vacuum, so quantum energy, vacuum energy, if we just ignore the fact that you can't explain magnetism without virtual particles or photons, if we just ignore it, then we can win the debate. I didn't make a claim about it. Like, it's like, okay, well, we're not figuring anything out. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, what I find really interesting there is, like, they have a lot of these failed theories, which, if they were being honest, they would just say, oh, well, that theory failed. But they just plug them with maths. They just go, oh, well, the orbits don't work. Oh, yeah, dark matter, dark energy.
They make the numbers work.
They just make the numbers work. And then they say, because the numbers work, that it works in physical reality. That's the game they're playing.
Hey, then they turn around and call it a prediction when it's all said and done.
Mathematical prediction.
That's an even better. That's an even bigger joke because they're not even predicting anything. They're already seeing the patterns, and then they're applying their false theories. They're layering over their kind of, let's just say, filler maths, and then calling it a prediction afterwards. They never predicted anything.
Yeah, it's so crazy. Like they brag about it, how it's accurate because it can predict things. When what actually happened was their math didn't work. They had to add a new made-up idea to make the equation work. And then they turned around and said, we can predict it. That's how we know virtual photons exist.
Yeah. Well, it'd be a bit like me saying, I know that 2 + 2 equals the number in the box. And then when you reveal the number in the box, it's 5. And then I just come up with a dark 1 that adds to the 2 + 2. And now we have 5, so everything works. And of course, then the 2 + 2 + 1 predicts the 5 because you reversed engineered it from the 5. Of
Exactly.
course.
It's pretty laughable. I just want to know, why do we see waving? Because like with everything, like any version of electromagnetism, so like you can say that light's neither electric nor magnetic, but you can't have light without electromagnetic radiation. If anyone wants to show me light without electromagnetic radiation, please holler at me, bro, and then go get your Nobel Prize and become a billionaire. You can't have. That's why we have an electromagnetic radiation spectrum that we call light, and we classify it based on its frequency and wavelength. It's EMR. So how can we say light's neither electric nor magnetic when there's not one scenario in all of history, not one observable phenomena ever, where you can find light that doesn't have an oscillating electric and an oscillating magnetic field ever in the history of mankind? That's crazy to me. And I know the answer. The answer is because Einstein had to come up with a quantum definition of light to make his theory work, and so they wanted to count it. So they came up with the photon.
Yeah.
Shit, Shane, I didn't know you were in this hour. Welcome.
Yeah, I was just noticing that everyone else here needed rules too, and I'm sorry for that again, everyone.
Yeah, man. Thank you, bro.
Yeah. Anyway, good to see you in here.
Yeah, what's up, dude?
Yeah, good to see you both in here, to be honest.
Hey, Shane, pop quiz. Is wave a noun or a verb?
You can't hand someone a wave, right? So it's definitely a verb. Things can wave.
Oh, you're saying you can wave your hand, but you can't hand me a wave?
Right, that was exactly
What about getting hit by a wave?
Oh, hit by a what?
I thought it would just be devil's advocate.
Well, when Globers hand wave dismiss things, is that a verb or a noun?
Whoa. Touché. Maybe light is a particle.
So you're not actually getting hit by the wave. You're getting hit by water.
Of course. Like the wave in the stands is a good example, right? Obviously, like you have the wave, but it's actually just the motion of people in the stadium. Pretty simple.
Yeah, like a Mexican wave or something.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, that's
racist,
probably really offensive now. A tortilla football wave.
Wait, it's a wave that works around the clock for next to nothing?
What happened, man?
Now you're being racist.
I figured I'd just take it even further, yeah.
Now you're being racist against tortilla eaters.
Oh, boy. Dude, what happened?
I just had a tortilla this morning. What are you talking about?
What's funny is that people only ever get offended on behalf of Mexicans, but when you talk to actual Mexicans, they find jokes about Mexicans hilarious.
Hilarious.
Yes.
I was the only white dude on my my construction team with a whole Mexican team, dude. They love my jokes.
If you showed up wearing...
Imagine thinking it's an insult to say you work really hard and you do it for such a good deal. It's like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
Dude, you could do the most ridiculous thing too, man. If Witsit showed up with a sombrero on, the bros would just be laughing it up. They wouldn't get offended. They'd be like, "What are you doing, man?" And then it would be hilarious. It would.
They say way more quote unquote racist stuff to me than I ever dreamt of.
Yeah.
What about themselves?
I only live 17 miles from the border, so I'm probably part Mexican by now, don't you think?
But by osmosis.
Is that how that works?
Isn't that
Transitive
how it works?
the transitive property of Mexicana. I think I learned about that.
It
But just say
merged
you're going to
over.
hear.
So Witsit, can light be a precursor to photosynthesis?
What is photosynthesis?
Huh? What is
What is
photosynthesis?
photosynthesis? Yeah.
It's the reaction in plants that when it absorbs light, it causes growth or whatever, I guess. I don't know exactly what it is, but light is the precursor to photosynthesis, isn't it? Some sort of
Yeah.
a
Light's the
light.
precursor to everything.
Right. So it's got to be, I mean, I don't know if it's substance, but it's got to be stimulating things in some way for there to be a precursor of some sort. It has to be.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
yeah, it's electromagnetic radiation. But
Yeah.
no, actually, the sun is emitting like photon paintballs, and it's hitting the plant, and then the plant's like, "Damn it, I give up. I'm gonna make some energy."
Well, when you put it that way,
That sounds retarded. Wait, is that the mainstream interpretation of exactly
Yeah,
that
sure.
process?
yes, it kind of is. Yeah.
Basically,
Like, damn,
if
I give up.
if you ever break down like global concepts, take away the science fiction sounding words, the concepts always sound that retarded.
The reduction to absurdity.
It is. They always do, especially with fundamental basic things like what is magnetism. Their explanation is woefully insufficient, and if people actually compared them side by side objectively, everyone would be on our side, almost certainly.
Yeah, but they just avoid it altogether. They're like, "We're not talking about that. I didn't make a claim about that." Blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay.
Yeah, you can always you win more debates if you never make claims of anything, and you only attack your opponent's claims. Definitely the way to go.
Yeah.
That or make claims like Captain Obvious. Just make the most obvious claims. Because
You know what's
only an
fucking
idiot would. Go ahead,
Sorry.
Ben.
No, I cut you off. Sorry, carry on.
Oh, I was. Yeah, it's fine. Go ahead. I'm just talking shit.
Oh yeah, well, the thing I was just going to bring up is I find it quite interesting because they kind of want to play both sides. On the one hand, they want to have all of the advantages of being the mainstream narrative, and so that comes with being able to appeal to authority, and that comes with being able to appeal to consensus and all this other shit. But then that also comes with the burden of having to defend that mainstream position, which they also don't want to do. So it's like they want to play both sides of the field without. Do you know what I mean? Like they don't. They want to just have all of the. They're like a feminist. They want all of the advantages and none of the drawbacks.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is, anyone can make a claim. The question is it true or not? So it's like it's very easy when you make claims about things that just are, but Glovers typically make claims to knowledge when they just know of things, and knowledge of something isn't the same as knowing something.
Yeah,
I just really. I hate to be this guy. I'm gonna turn it back a little bit more to the photon. Like, for example, if you say light is comprised of photons, that's a claim, and now it has implications. So that means you must support the implications. You don't get to just say, "Oh, I don't know, but I know." What? I don't know, but I know. No, you made a claim. If light is photons, then how do you have a photon unless it's traveling? So now you're invoking that the light travels. Well, what's the speed? What's the one-way speed? We don't have to know any of that. We just know if it's a photon. Are you saying it's just there are photons everywhere and then they just get excited and pop up in one location? Because that sounds a lot like the ether. So it seems like you need to get away from the instantaneous part of it. So, I mean, see, to me, it's frustrating when you hit the dead wall of like, we'll make a claim but won't address the implications of the claim. It's like the easiest way out of the debate.
Yeah, that's what I was saying though. Is like they like being in the comfy position of being the mainstream narrative holders. But of course, what comes with that is having to then know the model and defend the model intellectually and competently, which they can't. So, like,
yeah, it's good.
All the critiques.
It's so easy to be a baller.
Okay, so
Well, I guess
you throw a rock in the water and it displaces the water and causes the waves to go because of the displacement of the water. So
it causes the water to wave.
Huh?
It causes the water to wave.
Right, because the rock displaces the water, moves it out of the wave, and then causes it to collapse back in on itself and then go out in the form of a wave. It's because of the displacement of the water that causes the wave.
Yeah, the
So,
water's moving. Yeah.
yes. So, is radio waves displacing the atmosphere, or are they displacing what in the air in order for it to travel?
That's what I'm saying. That's my question, bro, because you can have radio waves without air. For the conversation to hit the wall of there's no such thing as vacuum chambers in nature is retarded. We can shoot radio waves through a vacuum chamber. What is waving? What is waving? That's the question.
Well, there's got to be something, I would think. I mean, common sense says there has to be something there, but what it is, I don't know.
By the way, this is another thing I get frustrated about. Like, so say you said there's no vacuum chambers in nature. I was like, okay. No, well, there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum. Okay. So then you are thus implying and claiming that it's actually the medium that's in there, so the air that's still in there is what's waving? Well, that's provably not true, so no one will make that claim. So what they do is they just say, there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum. There's no such thing as vacuums in nature. But wait. Are you now saying that the waving of energy that we see is the gas? Because that's what you're saying. But they will never absorb the implication.
There would also have to be some sort of equation where the amount of air, like the radio wave, would have to propagate. If it's reliant on the air, it would have to propagate at the rate of the rate would have to have a ratio with the amount of air in the container, like the density.
Correct.
Of air. So then, I mean, has that ever been demonstrated, or is it just ignored?
Well, not when it comes to magnitude or energy output. So, like, when you assume that it's traveling, yeah, you can see that there's a relationship between how fast it quote unquote travels. Meaning like how fast it is excited or becomes perceivable or whatever. But I just use the word travel, so I get frustrated people taking that out of context because I don't want to talk about it for 10 minutes that it doesn't actually travel and then use terms people aren't familiar with and then have to define them all. Because it's actually just a rate of induction of what's already there, and then it's a perceived rate of illumination, and we quantify that as speed and assume travel. But we can skip all that and say whatever quote unquote travel, right? Like there is a relationship between that and the medium, right? Like the efficacy of propagation is proportionate to the density of the medium. So there is a relationship there, but it isn't the medium itself. Like sound is air. That's why if I was in a vacuum chamber, you couldn't hear me talking because there's no air to vibrate. So there's no sound because there's no such thing as sound waves. The air is waving, causing what we call sound. So when you remove the air, you have no sound. But when you remove the air, the best that you can, you still have radio waves or anything within the electromagnetic radiation spectrum, which means that it isn't air. It's something else.
Well, see, water sound travels at 4,000 miles, over 4,000 miles an hour through water, but it only travels 700 miles an hour through the air because it's the density of the medium is more efficient for sound to travel through. So if it was a solid block of steel and you vibrate one end of it, and it's going to vibrate on the other end even quicker than water.
Yeah.
So it makes
kind of like
it makes sense, but it does. So
I understand what you're saying.
It does make sense.
I was thinking,
you understand what I just said? It makes perfect sense. It's the all sound is the medium moving.
Yes.
So yeah, so it does.
I think that makes sense. It does make sense because if something's next to something else and you hit that thing and it bumps into the thing next to it, but if there's less density, it's not as close to, the bump is going to be less and less and less, so you get more effects the denser it is.
That's right. You have less space in between, so then it's going to vibrate faster because it has less space to move. You know.
If you had a steel rod that was 1 billion miles long, and you moved it 1/16 of an inch on this end, it would move the same on the other end instantly. So you could move it back and forth and create a message through a steel rod at 1 billion miles away. If it was a solid rod from end to end, it would travel it would be an instant transfer from that end to the other end. Go figure that.
Well, we'll say technically it wouldn't be instant. It'd be like the smallest minute fraction of a second longer later.
Maybe, yeah. But it almost instantly, though. Over billions
But,
of miles.
but does everyone see the whole point? This is checkmate. Like, it's checkmate. Sound is the medium itself, the physical material mediums of water and air. That's what sound is. It's the vibration of those mediums. Because we can take away those mediums and see that you don't have sound anymore. Okay, because we know that waves aren't things. So sound waves, that means something was waving. What's waving? The water or the air. Okay, now we see that we have electromagnetic radiation, and we only perceive 1% of it, less than 1% of it, by the way. The whole spectrum, we can only see less than 1% of it. All of it is waving. It's not just mathematical. It's based on where you actually see it, where you can detect it even with different technology, different night vision. You can see the light. So the question is, like, why is it waving? Why is it perceiving in a way that's waving? Also with electric sensors, you can tell that it's waving. It's not just mathematical. It's physically detectable. So if it's waving, like, what is waving? What is waving if it's not the air? If someone wants to claim it's the air, please go ahead. But no one will ever claim that. It's asinine to claim that, right? Light is not air. That's retarded. We all know it's not, right? So then, what is waving? If something has to be there for it to be moving, because nothing isn't waving. You can have nothing moving. So what is moving? The answer is something. And that's the end of the debate. It doesn't matter what you call it. Call it ether or don't call it either. Something is waving.
Something there. There's no doubt. There has to be. Because that's the only thing.
It's a massless particle that's moving up and down. You just can't find it, detect it, measure it. You don't know what it is. You have to reify it when you see an interaction on a plate. It has no charge. It has no magnetic properties. We don't know its mass. We don't know its size. We don't know its shape. But I promise it's there, because we have localized interactions on a photographic plate, which is also just an electric interaction. So, like, what the? It's textbook global reification.
Whatever it is, it's very efficient.
It's because it's already there. So there is no speed of light. Yeah, there is no speed of light. There's a rate of induction. Yeah, there's a rate in which it's induced back into wherever it came from. You knock it out of equilibrium, you can see it, and then boom, it's going back into its equilibrium. That's why once you flip the switch off, you don't see it anymore. Because now you're not knocking it out of equilibrium anymore. There's no more disturbance. So
that's like particle entanglement when they act like the same at a distance, no matter how far you take them apart. When two particles, isn't that proved that there's this entanglement theory that when particles come in contact with one another and then you separate them, whatever the one does, the other one doesn't.
There's recent there's justifiable skepticism of those claims though. When they claim that they move one particle and it moves somewhere else, like, well, that's a cool story. I don't know. Yeah, of course, if superposition or like quantum entanglement, basically like instantaneous action at distance, if it exists, it obviously debunks the notion that it's traveling particles. Whatever it is already there. Yeah, only ether can explain instantaneous action distance, which is funny because this is a direct refutation of their gravity. Their gravity equation doesn't have a variable for the reaction of time, which means that it's instant. Their equation says gravity is instant. How do you have instantaneous action at a distance, though? If no information can travel faster than the speed of light, then how can you have their own gravity equation debunks their own model?
Well, whatever the so-called ether, call it whatever you want. There's something there that's extremely efficient in being able to transfer, whatever it wants to transfer, whatever it's capable of transferring, whether it be light, whether it be radio waves, whether it be whatever. There's something there that is very, very efficient. I know that.
Yeah, this is the straw man against the ether. It is. People think there has to be an ether because light needs a medium to travel through, but that's an unfounded assumption. Who says? How do you know it needs one? Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. How do you know it needs one? But, sure, maybe people claim that, but I don't claim that. I don't think light travels. My point is that wave is not a thing. It's a type of motion, which which means something has to be moving. Nothing cannot move. It can't even exist. So if we can agree that nothing doesn't exist, what is waving? And then their get out of jail card is to claim it's just math. That's patently wrong. You can literally physically detect the motion. It goes up and down in a transverse motion. Electromagnetic radiation waves, moves up and down. So what is moving? That's the question. What's moving? If everywhere you find light, you claim light's just little massless particles that you can't find, but you have to reify, then what's in between the photons? How come there's always electromagnetic radiation there that's waving? What is that's moving? What is it? What's moving? It just seems simple to me, but I don't know.
So
It's like subatomic particles move, they say, and then can be in the same place at the same time. They move up and down. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but what is that all about? What's your explanation of that?
I don't mean to interrupt, but if anybody wants to join the check-in, we got a new member here, and I'll be right back.
Sounds terrible.
Oh, I mean, I don't mind going up if it's necessary. I just need to pull over. Yeah, give me a second.
Can anyone help me out though? Let's say we don't believe in the ether. Let's say the ether's whack. What is moving? I don't know.
If nothing is moving, then there wouldn't be anything happening. So there has to be something. I don't know. It just makes sense.
Yeah. Well, this is what I'm saying. I get really aggravated with that. There's no such thing as a perfect vacuum response. It's what the? Because there's wireless power induction in a vacuum. Did you guys know that? You can have wireless power induction inside of a vacuum chamber. So what the hell is going on there?
Well, there's obviously something there.
If you say there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum in response to that question, what you're saying is that whatever is still in that vacuum chamber is what's causing the powerless or the wireless power induction. If your rebuttal is there's no such thing as a perfect vacuum, then that necessarily implies that whatever is still in that vacuum chamber is what is establishing and sustaining the wireless power induction. That is provably wrong. You can do the math of what we can test and prove the energy output is of a certain amount of air. We can prove it. Certain amount of material, certain amount of energy. Nowhere near that amount of material in the vacuum chamber, way more energy. The only way to rebut this is to hand wave dismiss the vacuum chamber. It's the only way. It's the only way out.
Because if you're removing material like air, then there should be less propagation. And you're saying there's actually more energy?
There's more energy than should be there if it was just the air. That's all I'm saying. Because no, there's more energy where you have more matter. Because now you have an additional medium there to sustain and hold the energy, right? Because you have something called capacitance, which is the threshold of how much electricity can be stored. Capacitance.
Right.
It's the threshold of electrical storage. I really want to get into all that, though, because that gets more complex. Technically, it isn't actually the matter itself that is holding the charge. But I don't even want to get into that because people are not. That's next level. It's counterspatial, and then dude, that term is going to make people lose their mind. I'm trying to get the first base first.
You can go into Sorry, God Rockin'.
What's that?
I said sorry, God Rockin'. Go ahead, dude.
You're all right. It's all good.
Dude, say that. All right. So electrostatics being what? The ether under torsion. You want to go there? You want to just throw stuff?
Oh man, you're really trying to get people riled up in there. It's under strain or stress. But okay, I'll say the reason I don't necessarily want to get too much into that because, like I said, I'm just trying to get to first base where people answer my question. What is waving? I'll just keep asking like that. But like when it comes to this was hard for me to wrap my mind around until it finally clicked. And so I don't really blame someone for being like, that's woo woo or that sounds crazy when I say it. But when you have a capacitor, right? You have this little, like, we'll just call it a battery, but you have this little, like, piece of metal. And what happens is you wrap metal wire around it, okay? And then we interpret that as it transfers the electricity through the wire. So as you wrap it tighter and tighter, and you have more and more electrical wire, metal wire, you get higher capacitance. You get more electricity, right? And so the way that people understand it right now, or you'll be taught in like electrical engineering or whatever, it's that since you have more and more wire, more electricity can be stored within that wire, right? And it makes kind of sense. You're like, oh, well, you added more wire, you have more electricity. But in reality, that the electricity is not stored inside the wire. It's stored in between it. And as you tightly wound it, now you've increased the counter space that's interacting with the material. And so there's no doubt that that's not going to fly in certain realms.
Sorry, just wanted to cut in quickly. I'm currently driving, so I can't give Alan rolls in the VC. But if there's a goal or a mod, if you could just give Alan Flat Earther and VC verified, because I know him from another server, he's very knowledgeable, good guy.
Alan is the man.
Yeah, if there's any gold or mod, if you could just give Alan just Flat Earther and VC verified, that'd be good. Actually, Witsit, you could do it quickly if you're not.
Oh, I'm gold now. Okay.
Sorry,
where's
he's just in VC verified, just above.
Yeah, he's in check-in.
Have you met Alan Witsit? You must have.
Yeah, Witsit definitely knows Alan. They talk all the time.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I've been here for a long time, and I don't even know how to do that shit. So, I've been.
Is that God Rocket?
It's pretty sad.
Is that God Rocket?
Yeah.
Hey man, you've still got that imposter in the other server.
Really?
Yeah. He kept on trying to. He was messaging me the other day saying, or maybe a couple of weeks ago now, he's saying, "Oh, you've banned the wrong one. You've banned the good. You banned me, and the troll's still in there, and all this shit." And I banned him, right? And then he was saying, like, "Oh, Gio's going to hear about this. You're going to get banned. You're not going to be allowed on any servers." And I knew.
What a bonehead! I don't know what that guy thinks he's doing, but he's something wrong with it, man. Something wrong with that dude, man.
That's yeah. I mean, look, dude. This isn't my first interaction with Globers. I know what they're capable of, but I just thought you should know what they're trying to do.
Yeah, I hear about it quite frequently. I thought they silenced him there for a minute, but apparently, I guess he's back up to his old tricks again, like an idiot.
Oh no, he was DMing me. I haven't let him back in the server. But anyway,
That's so bizarre. I mean, what the hell? Why me? I mean, pick somebody else.
Well, I think the reason you is because, first of all, you don't really check your DMs, so it's hard to check with you if someone's impersonating you. So try and check your DMs a bit more, please. But also, it's